Hello, YouTube. This is Largo64. This afternoon I was rummaging through some old papers and I came across something that I wrote when I was in high school. This was in my 17th year. It was 1959, approximately. And I was taking journalism. Excuse me. I was sitting in the journalism room after class in front of an old Royal typewriter. Most of you young people will hardly even know what a typewriter is, much less an old desk Royal. I don't know, I just got a notion to write a silly story. So I did. And here it is. For Whom the Bluebell Toils. Once upon a time, an itty-bitty rose went tripping gaily through the flower bed on her way to Mrs. Tulip's house. Mrs. Tulip had promised Julie Rose, for that was her name, a treat of fertilizer cookies. In order to get to Mrs. Tulip's section of the garden, however, Julie had to go through mean old Mr. Onion's yard. Of course, everyone knows that sweet-smelling roses just don't go with nasty, sharp-smelling onions, and Julie, who knew old Mr. Onion to be mean as well as smelly, was quite afraid. Fearful though she was, Julie thought about how good those fertilizer cookies would be, and soon forgot mean old Mr. Onion. She crept quietly into his yard, stopped a moment to listen, then scurried to get to the other side as quickly as possible. Just as she was about to cross the borderline to the other side of mean old Mr. Onion's yard, the mean old fellow saw her and rushed to catch her. Julie screamed and ran faster, but mean old Mr. Onion ran faster than she, and soon caught her and took her back to his house. "Ho, ho," said mean old Mr. Onion, "if it isn't little Julie Rose from the rose patch. Just wait, my little pretty, and I'll smell you up till no other of your kind will ever associate with you." "Oh, no, please don't do that," cried poor Julie, for now she was really frightened. "I only wanted to get to Mrs. Tulip's house because she promised me some fertilizer cookies. I didn't want to go all the way around the pond, for it seems to stretch for miles, and I get so tired that way. I wasn't hurting anything." "Ha!" shouted old Mr. Onion. "Ha! I'll have no excuses, my pretty. I'm just going to smell you up so you won't be worth a cent." Julie screamed and ran for the door. When mean old Mr. Onion blocked her way, she ran around the room, trying to keep away from him. Fortunately, Billy Bluebell, Julie's boyfriend, who lived across the furrow, heard the screams, for now they came thick and fast. He raced for Mr. Onion's house, broke in the door, and shouted, "Unhand that flower, you villain!" A terrible fight followed, and Mr. Onion, who was quite spry for such a nasty old villain, almost knocked Billy out. He even stooped so low as to hit Billy in the root, which, as everybody knows, is a low blow in any battle. But Billy was a punchant little fellow, and he almost knocked the greens out of mean old Mr. Onion. "Curses!" screamed mean old Mr. Onion. "Double curses!" And he ran out of the house as fast as he could go. "My hero!" cried Julie as she threw her leaves around Billy, being careful not to stick him with a thorn or two. "You have saved my smell." Then the two flowers walked leaf in leaf to Mrs. Tulip's house, and they feasted upon fertilizer cookies until they were full. Needless to say, they lived happily ever after, and they were never bothered by mean old Mr. Onion again. The end.